Good morning, welcome, 1,000 welcomes. And we are meditating today on a marvelous topic. Really look at the beauty. And so the phrase comes from an artist. I came across this phrase from an artist who was saying, really look at the beauty that surrounds us always. And so this artist was saying that the beauty is there, and we often look past it. So we ignore the beauty that can be there in the simplest of moments, and even in things that have been sort of neglected or ignored or abandoned. The beauty is there if you look and you allow the beauty to reveal itself to you. So Swami Nityananda said that beauty is love made visible. So if we're in contact with the energy of love, we will see beauty everywhere, always. And I want to be clear and honest about this, forthright about this from the very beginning. That means we won't always be looking with human eyes. So if we look with human eyes, there can be some things that are very, very challenging to look upon, and very, very hard to see beauty in those things. When we look with the eyes of the Spirit, that's a phrase given to us by Adi Shankar. When we look with the eyes of wisdom, that's a phrase given to us by the Buddha. When we look with the eyes of the heart, that's a phrase used by Swami Shankarananda. We will see beauty always. We will feel the energy, the presence, the possibility, the aliveness of beauty, even when we're looking at something that is very painful and difficult to look upon with our human vision. And so we're invited to continually cultivate this heart seeing, this wisdom seeing, this spirit awareness always, so that we can connect with that first always. That's the energy of divine love that holds all of time and space in its embrace, in its support, in its caring, in its wholeness, in its aliveness always. And so then we're able to look with our human eyes, but we're able to bring a deeper understanding, a deeper insight, perspective, awareness. So I want to give a couple of examples. I will also share with you why this is so vitally important. And so the teachings from the Bhagavad Gita, I was just absolutely, I love the Bhagavad Gita. I read it all the time, at least twice a day. I highly encourage that practice. Lahiri said, read the Bhagavad Gita at least once a day. So everywhere, always, can benefit from reading the Bhagavad Gita. And if you've stepped away from your daily engagement with the Gita, I invite you to step back into your daily engagement with the Gita. Beginning of chapter 1, and here's one reason why. I was meditating on this last night, and this phrase unfurled in this completely dramatic, beautiful, amazing way, which I'm about to share. And the next time I look at the Gita, the same thing will happen, and it'll be this unfurling. So at the very beginning of chapter 9, the voice of truth, the voice of light, the voice of divine awareness says to Arjuna, who is all of us, all human beings, "Psst, I will tell you the secret of how to live in joy and freedom." And here's the part that's just mind-blowing. I can tell you this secret because you are free from finding fault with others. Whoa! That's it right there. And you can translate that in different ways. I can only tell you how to live in joy and freedom and see God everywhere always if you are free from finding fault with others. You also can translate this slightly differently. I can only tell you how to live in joy and peace, seeing God always, if you're not fighting me, if you're not fighting God, if you're not competing with God, if you're not holding yourself separate from God. And so what this tells you, again, I'm going to put this in human terms, if I have been finding fault with others, I'm cutting myself off from seeing the divine everywhere always. I'm cutting myself off. You could put this in so many different ways. I'm cutting myself off from the ever-present flow of unconditional love. I'm cutting myself off from the ever-present flow of grace and wisdom and wholeness and healing and freedom and vitality and peace and gladness and possibility and awakeness and creativity and ingenuity and aliveness, everything that we love. And so just without judgment, have clarity and self-awareness, and give yourself permission to close your eyes and go within and just look back over the last week. Have I been finding fault with others? Am I willing to let that go? Keeping the wisdom and the awareness. Keep the wisdom and the awareness, but let go of the fault finding. Have I been judging others? Am I willing to let that go? Again, keeping clarity, awareness, insight, understanding, courage, but letting go of judgment. Have I been fighting God? Have I been arguing with God? Have I been competing with God? Am I willing to let that go? And then here's why this is so important. The next verse is, I am the all-pervading, indwelling self of the entire manifested universe. We're only able to see that if we let go of fault-finding, if we let go of judging ourselves and others, if we let go of fighting God or competing with God. So we're only able to see the divine everywhere, always. We're only able to see that all exist in me, but I am not limited by them, if we let go of finding fault with others, if we let go of arguing with God or competing with God or judging or blaming ourselves or others. So I want to be really clear about this on a human level. What we are invited to do always is catapult ourselves beyond fault-finding, judgment, competing with others or with God, into heart seeing, into wisdom seeing, into spirit vision, whatever your phrases for that are. And then, from that expanded awareness, come back into your human self, your human life. Bring your human skills to bear. We are here to be of service in time and space without conflict. So I'm next going to share an amazing verse from the Buddha, the one who is awake, who tells us all we are each this awakeness. We are each invited to be that same awakeness that the Buddha expressed with such majesty and compassion and skill and stillness. The Buddha says, be a seer, strong, resolute, heroic, beyond conflict, cleansed, enlightened. And so I'm just going to share, these are stories that crossed my path this week. They're true stories. So the one is that it sometimes takes, the Buddha says, it takes being a seer, being a witness, being an observer, being able to take a step back from human conflict and arguing, and to say, I'm going to be a neutral observer. I'm going to zoom out before I react. So just zoom out before you react. Always zoom out. And so a person that I spoke with earlier this week, she said she was driving along and she was in a car. There was a bicyclist who was trying to pick a fight. And she had to say, I am going to keep my window rolled up. I am not going to roll my window down. I am not going to engage with that conflict. So I just want to be clear, like the invitations to conflict, they arise, right? Like if we're human and we're moving through time and space, that can happen. The invitation to conflict is presented, and then we get to choose. And so she had enough self-awareness to sort of sit on her hands rather than rolling down the window and engaging in the conflict. And because of that, she was able to keep going. So that's just like a really simple, everyday, vivid human example. Each of us is invited as many times as it takes to go beyond conflict. And so also develop self-awareness. Like, just notice as you look back over your week or over your life, are there particular invitations to conflict that you find it hard to resist? So just have that awareness. Swami Premananda said, a devotee never argues. So one who knows the truth has no need to argue. Just connect with the truth and be the truth. And Thich Nhat Hanh says this another way. He says, what creates transformation is love and understanding. He says, facts and argument do not create transformation. So another way of thinking is, we're always asking, when we zoom out, we have this awareness. What will raise the vibration? What will raise the frequency? What will expand the love and the understanding? And you can really quickly have clarity and awareness that rolling down the window and shouting back at the person who's trying to shout at you does not raise the vibration. It does not increase the peace. It does not increase the love and the understanding. And so if you need a quick query, like a quick self-inquiry, what will increase love and understanding? And connect with that first, before you answer, before you speak, before you choose, before you respond, before you decide. So, another story, and these are a couple of true stories that come from the life of the same human. So the first is a story about how we can see with our human vision something that appears to be the case, and it appears to be most helpful, and we could be reaching toward that. We could be reaching toward what from our human vision seems like, oh yeah, that's the solution, that's the answer. But it might not be the solution. It might not be the answer. And if we're open, the divine will redirect us. The divine is constantly providing us feedback. And you know how your phone will say rerouting? So the divine will constantly reroute you if you need to be rerouted. So please stay open. Please listen and be open to when the divine wants to reroute you. And so this is the case of this gentleman who was climbing this steep cliff face. It was on a headland, and it was a deer trail. And he got almost to the top of this headland deer trail, and 6 feet of the trail had crumbled away. And there was a 200-foot drop where this 6 feet of trail had crumbled away. And so he had to figure out, and I'm also going to just say, please don't do this at home. This is not recommended in climbing safety protocols. But he was an adventurer, and so he looked across this 6 feet of gap on the trail, and he saw this vine that was as thick as his wrist. And he was like, I can jump 6 feet. I can grab onto that vine, and that vine will let me climb to the top of this trail. And he had also noticed 1 foot to the left of this thick vine, there was a thinner vine that was about as thick as his thumb. And his human mind looked at that and was like, nah, I have to dismiss that because that's too thin. So he goes a few steps back so he can build up momentum, and he takes a leap for it, and he's mid-leap. And he notices he's being redirected. His hand is no longer reaching for the thick vine. It's redirecting, and it's reaching for the thin vine. And he says, okay, I'll go with this. And he grabs onto the thin vine, and it holds him. And he pulls himself to the top, and then he says, I want to investigate. So now he's at the top, and he goes and he gets this long branch. And he takes the long branch, and he touches the thick vine, and it falls 200 feet. It was not anchored at all. And his human mind didn't know that. So you could say the divine or his soul or the universe, the laws of energy, redirected him to help him find the vine that would hold. And it was not the vine that he could see with his human eyes. that made sense on the face of it. And so just be aware. The divine is always in operation. The divine is always in motion, and we're invited to align with that. And then we will find ourselves having grand adventures, although again, please don't try that one particular adventure at home. When we have this awareness, I am the all-pervading, indwelling self of the entire manifested universe. Another way that the Bhagavad Gita puts this is, within thy cosmic being, I see all beings of different forms in varying states of unfoldment. That means everybody, everywhere, always, no matter what they're doing, no matter what they're expressing, they're part of this divine beingness. And so I'm going to share with you, again, this is not recommended at home, and it's easier to look at this with non-attachment and compassion when it's somebody else's life. But the healing implications of this apply to every human life. This same man that I just told you about, when he was born, his mom had 6 kids. He was her 7th. She was so malnourished, she couldn't get out of bed most days. She gave birth to him in the middle of the night by herself. And when she looked at him, she threw him into the fire. That was how he arrived in time and space. His older sister, and again, so the divine is always here, even if we are thrown into the fire by the events of our lives in time and space. The divine is still there. His older sister came and pulled him out of the fire. And then he spent about 4 years in an orphanage. His only memory, and you can tell his brain, his mind, his memory are doing this to protect him. His only memory of the orphanage is that it wasn't kind. It wasn't a kind place. And then at age 4, he was adopted by an incredibly kind, incredibly loving family. So when we look at those circumstances of that life, we can see the divine was in operation always. His mother was not her true self. If she were her true self, there is no way she would have greeted this child of light in that particular way. But even though his mother was not her true self, his older sister was able to step in and pull him from the flames. And he was able to go, his life was supported and sustained at the orphanage, even though it wasn't a kind place. And then his adoptive parents, who were kind, came and they adopted him from the orphanage. So for each of us, we are invited to heal the ways in which we have been thrown into the fire. Every human life has ways in which we have been thrown into the fire. And healing comes when we let go of saying that that was somehow apart from the divine. This is much easier to see with someone else, which is why I shared that story with you. For yourself, please, wherever it feels as if life has thrown you into the fire, heal the images and the stories and the judgments that it is very easy to carry from those places where life has thrown us into the fire. Divine love is still fully operative, even when we have been thrown into the fire. Divine love is still fully operative, even if it seems like we are being rejected. Divine love is still fully operative, even if it seems like we're being treated unkindly, or we're being abandoned, or we're being neglected. Divine love is fully operative always. And divine love wants to adopt all of us as beautiful, beloved children of light always, no matter what the circumstances are. Always we are supported by divine love. So a couple of things. This is a meditation that we can return to as often as we have painful memories. So this is a meditation to work with for a while. One of the most healing things that we can do for ourselves. So I'm going to put this in terms of that memory because it's easier to look at for someone else. For that man, a very healing meditation would be this. I close my eyes, and I'm willing to see with the eyes of the heart, with the eyes of spirit, with wisdom eyes. I'm willing to see that I am a child of light as I am born to my mother. And my mother is a child of light even as she, in her sickness, in her illusion and confusion, throws me into the fire. She's still a child of light. So I can let go of my images of her as being malnourished and sick and filled with confusion and hatred. I can connect with the true light within her. And I can see that that true light is what is lasting and real and present and available always. And I can see that the light in me is undimmed even as I fly into the fire. The light in me calls to the light in my older sister, and the light in my older sister reaches out and pulls me from the fire. And it is actually the light that allows me to be supported. In his case, it was by the orphanage. In whatever ways support came to each of us, that was the light. The light was always whole. The light is always whole in us. And in true reality, the light is always whole, even when humans are confused and lost and sick and filled with pain, and even when in the realm of time and space they create confusion and sickness and loss and pain for others. Always the light is. And so this is a meditation for each of us. Whatever be the fires into which life has thrown us, I see I am a child of light before I go into the fire. While I was in the fire, I am always a child of light. And it is the light that allows me to move out of those flames. It is the light that calls to me the circumstances, the people, the support that will allow my soul's growth, that will allow the spiritual strength, the divine, majestic, supreme kindness and awakeness within me to be born, that will allow the song of life that is within me always to shine and to share itself with me and with all. So I'm going to give us just a moment of stillness as we let go of the outer vision and the outer story that we have been telling ourselves. You know what these stories are, what these images are. They're the pain points. They're the things that you stumble over, that you come back to, that you are arguing with God about. The things that there is self-judgment or judgment of others present. The things that make us block the full, free flow of unconditional love and divine wisdom and support. Be willing to let go of the outer vision. Be willing to let go of the outer stories. Be absolutely clear about keeping the wisdom, about not choosing to create pain, about not choosing to create illusion, about not choosing to throw anyone into the fire or to throw ourselves into the fire. And also be absolutely clear, there is no human life that is free from those moments of feeling, in this case, literally being thrown into the fire. And we are undimmable, undiminished light, even in those moments. And the light is with us. The light is within us. The light is what we are always. All of the other beings involved, whether they seem to be playing villainous roles or whether they seem to be playing heroic rescue roles, they too are of the light. That's what the divine is telling us in the Bhagavad Gita. All of this is held in cosmic beingness. All of it. All beings in all states of unfoldment always are held in supreme love, in wholeness, in flowing motion. So every one of us always is invited to choose. Does this create more love and understanding? Does this create more wholeness, more peace, more joy, more healing, more gladness, more freedom, more laughter? Does this create more harmony, more welcome? Does this create more celebration? Does this allow light to be born through me in a way that is unprecedented? Light always wants to be born through us with ever new joy. It will always be fresh. It will always be vital. It will always be alive. And as we truly meditate with this and allow it to percolate, allow it to resonate, allow it to reach the deepest levels of our being, this will heal us from any pain, from any of the foundational pain that we have carried as a result of being human. There's nothing wrong with that wonderful human because he was thrown into the fire. That was part of his soul's journey. There's nothing wrong with any of us because we have experienced being thrown into the fire. All of it was part of our soul's journey. And so the moment we have this awareness, go back to the beginning of chapter 9, Bhagavad Gita again, Krishna says, when we let go of finding fault with others, with God, we have awareness of freedom and peace and healing and joy and gladness. We have awareness that the divine is always, through all the pairs of opposites, through all the experiences of time and space, the divine is. And that is beautiful. Thank God, and God bless us all.